chamber in New York, she spent $60 million to get elected in New York. What kind of democracy is that? You've got to put a cap on top of the spending amount that can be used to have an election. Otherwise, it eliminates everybody that isn't very, very rich or doesn't have a very, very powerful name, like the former mayor of Calgary, the former premier of somebody, the former legislator that's been well known or something. You're eliminating the average person, which is what we don't want to do. We really do believe in democracy in this country, and we want to give it to the people. And just one more comment, just one more. There's a book you can get called Claire Hoy's Nice Work, if you can get it, the story of the Canadian Senate. I think it's out of print, but you can still get it through the internet. And Claire Hoy starts off by saying the province of Quebec wanted the Triple E Senate before Confederation was signed. And ever since then, I've got enough polling things ever since we started talking Senate reform. And they wanted us to pay $25 for a poll, and we said we don't have any money to pay for polls. Angus Reid and Ipsos Reid has been polling us for over 20 years. We've never had less than a majority of Canadians from every province, including Quebec, that want to elect their senators. One time they had 90% in BC and Alberta. We only had 50% in Quebec there. We've got just under 60% in Quebec now, and we have 70% nationwide in the last Angus Reid poll. And there's an Ipsos Reid poll that's just a little bit higher. But we don't really care. We know that the majority of Canadians want democratic elections for their senators. Thank you very much.
We've now concluded the opening statements and a series of rebuttals. It's now an opportunity for the audience to become engaged. I would ask that you use the mic and that you keep your questions relatively short, and hopefully that will lead to short responses.
Senator Brown.
Excuse me, make sure it's green. The light's on, it's green.
It's not green, I don't know. Senator Brown, you're indicating that you want both an elected and an equal Senate, or certainly more egalitarian Senate is the case, but you're willing to settle for electing senators first and then fixing the equality issue second. And that strikes me as being particularly problematic, since once provinces have the legitimacy that comes with election, what would be the incentive for them to give it up? You say that Quebec agreed to it before Confederation. You know currently Quebec is not supportive of this. So what would be the advantage, both of having the election and the gridlock and the inequality of the Senate under current circumstances? And since it isn't that way now, you seem to be suggesting that the Senate ought to either change or veto the Bill C-7 as it currently sits. So in other words, there's something wrong with Bill C-7 now, and the Senate ought to change it before passing it. So I guess it's a twofold question. Probably equality, and can that be solved by a Senate amendment?
Thank you for your question. I guess the answer is simply that we think that Canadians in general would do what they did before, which was to agree to equality. But because we're using the constitutional amending formula twice, it took me back. I actually put it in without knowing where it was going, but I knew that we had to have 7 provinces on site. And then I realized, I went back in my mind to 1992 when Bob Ray got only 1 vote on a constitutional amendment, because he had to show his government was behind it. You can't take all of your MLAs from Ontario and Quebec and Alberta and bring them in and say, okay, you guys all get a vote. You have to show you have a majority of your government behind you, and then you get one vote. And so what it does is it makes equality with all the provinces. If you have, I already said it, but if you have 24 senators in Quebec, you have to show that you've got 13 of them to vote against the rest. And if you have 6 in Alberta and the other 4 provinces, you have to have 4 out of 6. And the PEI has to have 3 out of 4. It was something that I actually, honestly, I did not know the consequences of it when we talked about the second, not representative percent of the population. First of all, it protects the Constitution. It means that we can only have a Constitution change if we do the 7 out of 10. Secondly, we can't have a veto vote unless we have 7 out of 10. That's what it does. And if that's what happens, then one thing everybody needs to realize in this debate, it's not me that's going to win this thing. It's not Stephane Dion that's going to stop it. It's the provinces, what they want to do, what they decide to do. And it's their people talking to their MLAs or MPs that have to be convinced in a majority of each province. It's just democracy. That's all we want, is democracy.
Okay. Madame, I think you have that very clearly expressed. First, we would have this bill that will create a wrong, and after we'll fix it through a constitutional change. Senator Brown thinks it's possible to have a standalone discussion about the Senate, and that at the end of the day we'll come with something that will please him. Okay, Constitution. Say this word to the Premier of Quebec. Constitution, by the way, now that you're speaking about it, and the province of Quebec will come with its own request. It's very likely that the province of Quebec will request to be recognized as a nation. If Albertans have a stomach to discuss a nation in the Constitution and be open to it, tell me. I'm not aware that is the case. But it's clearly where we are going. Quebec will say, we did not agree with the 1982 constitutional law. You need to fix it, even to consider a change of the Senate. And the Aboriginal leaders would say, by the way, we have our own political plan, and we will be back there. There is no way you will have a standalone negotiation on the Senate, which will be already a complicated thing to agree about. We'll have to discuss everything. Whether Prime Minister Harper agrees with Senator Brown, whether he does not agree. If he agrees with Senator Brown, is that Prime Minister Harper is planning a new mega constitutional negotiation. He never said that to Canadians. He did not campaign on it door to door at the last election. So if it is his plan, he should say so. Or if his plan is to say, no, C-7 is fine as it is, well, he should say so, what that means for Alberta and for the whole of Canada, when we'll have 2 chambers blocking each other. And he should explain that to his House leader, who said in the quote that I gave at the beginning, it's the last thing we should do in Canada. So it's for the Prime Minister of Canada to explain himself now.
I guess it doesn't matter how many times I say it, but first of all, we want democracy, and right now in the Senate you have no democracy at all. You have 2 ways you can vote. You can either vote for the people that were appointed by the Prime Minister, or you can vote for the leader of the opposition. If you believe in the Green Party in the Senate, you have no vote. If you believe in the Bloc Québécois, you have no vote in the Senate. It never will happen until you change something. Doesn't matter how many parties we have, how many parties we're allowed to speak, there's no vote for those that do not list as liberals or conservatives. All the other parties have no chance to ever vote in the Senate. Your third choice is the one that very few people have ever done, and that is to vote against the people that are your leaders, either the Prime Minister or the leader of the opposition, Liberals. If you go against them, you end up being an independent. They can't throw you out, but they can sure make it impossible for you to get on committees and to really do anything except get up and speak once in a while. That's what an independent can do. We've got 3 independents.
Oh, we've got more people up there at the mic, so let's go forward. Go ahead, Matt.
Hello, Mr. Brown. This is directed at you. You have been appointed to the Senate, and congratulations with that. You've been waiting for a while. Your allegiance was to Prime Minister Harper and not the people of Canada, and that was, to me, quite worrisome. I find the partisanship that is occurring in the House in the Senate is problematic. I am not convinced by your argument that a Democratic Senate is going to be effective, nor do we need it. This is a government that has prorogued Parliament twice, has been held in contempt of Parliament, and has lied to the House. I'm not sure that this proposal will do anything to benefit the people of Canada. Could you assure me that the partisanship that we see in the House of Commons and carried over to the Senate will, I guess I need to be convinced that this is not going to be a problem. I see the U.S., I see the gridlock, and I cannot help but think you are taking us in this very same direction. Thank you.
All I can tell you is that there were 3 Senate elections in Alberta. I ran in all 3 of them. I was asked to run by Premier Getty at the time as a progressive conservative party. The second time I ran was for the Reform Party of Canada, and myself and Ted Morton were the winners in that election. And I was asked to do that by the party. The third one I was asked to do by Ralph Klein. And he said, I won't say exactly what he said, but he hinted that if you don't do it, then we're not going to have another election. In any case, I ran for the PC party, and when Harper called me finally and said, would you sit in the Senate? And I said yes, but I said I was elected by the people of Alberta, and any time something comes up in a bill or anywhere that I hear a lot of Albertans telling me that that's not right, then I'm going to vote against what's going on. That's my promise. I didn't come through 23 years of this work to decide that I'm going to let somebody else tell me what people of Albertans want and why I should vote for it. I will do it.
Madam, the experience outside Canada with the elected Senate is that they are partisan bodies everywhere, much more than regional bodies. If you want to predict the vote of a U.S. senator, it's more likely that you will be right in your prediction if you know the party of the senator than the state. 2 senators of the same state, a Republican and a Democrat, are more likely to vote differently than alike. So it's very difficult to think that an elected Senate in Canada would be less partisan. What we know for sure is that the Senate of today is less partisan than the House. It's a partisan body, there are caucuses and so on, but the experts who look at the 2 chambers and compare them conclude that there is more collegiality in the Senate, more tradition of independent voting, and the reason is simple, is because the Senate is not the chamber of confidence. The House is the chamber of confidence. So the Senate has more leeway to deal with things than the House. The other point is that senators don't need to work hard to be reappointed. And MPs, they want to run again at the election after. So the discipline is stronger in the House than in the Senate today. I would to say that prime ministers are elected, as MPs they are elected. So they choose senators, but they are accountable for it. And if they make bad choices, Canadians are not pleased by that. I think Senator Hayes, who was here, Senator Banks, who was here, has been great parliamentarians. And I think everybody may agree about that, whether they are liberal or conservative. So the prime minister who chose them has a lot of members who have done so. So the accountability exists now. Now, it exists through the accountability that the prime minister must have in his choices, or her choices. Of course, there is an argument that may be made that it would be better to elect them by the people. And I don't have a problem with this argument. I think it makes sense. But then fix the problem between the two chambers, fix the problem about the distribution of seats by provinces. Otherwise, you will create a mess and not a stronger democracy. But I'm saying that now would have been said by George Brown, the other Brown, the father of our Confederation, a great Democrat. And he said, if we have two elected chambers, we will weaken the principle of ministerial responsibility. Because the chamber where the government is not responsible to the Senate will have the same powers that the chamber where the government is responsible. And it doesn't make sense. And he fought against that as a great Democrat. So I am for democracy, but a strong one.
I think my hero from when I was 12 years old, my hero was from the British Premier, Prime Minister. And he said that democracy is a terrible institution. It's, however, way up in front of anything else we've ever tried. So all I ask for is to consider that you're having a chance to have a democratic Senate. And I think most Canadians would agree with that. In fact, I know they would agree with that. And I know it will happen. It's, if Harper fails to do it, somebody else will do it. We will have a democratic Senate. And I've never picked out a senator and said that you're not doing things right or anything else. But if you really want to know how bad the Senate